All right, moving on to the Big Easy, where the New Orleans Pelicans blew out the Los Angeles Lakers 128 to 111. And trust me, it was not that close. The Lakers were without LeBron James and Anthony Davis, but not to worry. On a night where the brightest of stars was sidelined due to injury, the Pelicans were without Lonzo Ball. Not to worry, Brandon Ingram dropped 36 points. Zion Williamson, he had 27, along with 9 rebounds and 5 assists. Lakers got 18 from Montrezl Harrell, but they just got 3 first-half points from Kyle Kuzma. And Dennis Schroeder had a forgettable 2 for 10 performance from the floor. That's the Lakers' third straight loss, as they are tied with the Clippers for third place out west. The Pelicans, they won their fourth in 6 games, but they still trail the aforementioned Mavericks for the final playoff spot out west, and they still have the Grizzlies and Warriors in between them for the 8th spot. A lot of work to do for them. But anyway, Drink, does this recent stretch for New Orleans give you confidence that they'll leapfrog those teams and make the playoffs?
I wouldn't say leapfrog, like give me confidence that they will. It does give me confidence that they can. I think when the Pelicans, put their best foot forward, they are just as good, if not better, than those teams that we got fighting for the 6, 7, and 8. Now, I would say this for the Pelicans. Now that we have this new play-in thing, maybe you can half-ass it a little bit per se. Because if you stay stuck around, I mean, honestly, you think about it. As long as you in the 10th seed and you hang around with the 2 games or the 2 games and a half or whatever the regulation is, you're gonna get a shot at making the playoffs. And then it just turns into like a conference tournament pretty much. You just got to get hot, and then you get hot, and then now you're in the playoffs. Now, once the playoffs start, anything can happen, right? So, I just feel like they're not necessarily better than the other teams, but I feel like they can play with the other teams once they want to play with the other teams, I guess to say. Once they put it all together. I would not say that off of the Laker team that they played last night. If this had been, they would have gave that performance last night against a LeBron Lakers team, an AD Lakers team, and they had to actually fight for it. I'll be like, okay, yeah, that Pelican team is legit. I like what I seen out the Pelicans. I just don't know how legit it is. I mean, give me somebody else better. Step up the competition a little bit more, and then I would be able to make a better assessment. But I like what I seen out the Pelicans. Just, it's not their fault that they played that version of the Lakers last night. Did I say that version? Let's talk about that version of the Lakers last night. If everybody could just join me for a second for a moment of silence, or the Lakers' playoff chances if AD and LeBron don't come back sometime soon. All right. Yes. So, they season about to be in the casket if one of these dudes don't come back sometime soon. Because that what we seen, that wasn't it. That wasn't it. That what we seen last night? No, sir. No, sir. And I got it. All right, I got it. Everybody going to say, hey, if you go take the top 2 players off any team, they wouldn't be good. Well, we just watched the Warriors last night, and they seem to be missing their top 2 players. And I'm not saying they was, good, but they wasn't terrible either. Like we mentioned earlier, they had the lead in the 4th quarter with 6 minutes left against one of the top defensive teams in the NBA, if not the top defensive team in the NBA. So, how did they do it? Oh, I mean, I guess they just played a little basketball, right? This team, I don't know. And I don't understand why the Lakers are like, okay, let me make sure I say this right. Because I guess I can't understand why they're so bad. They don't have their star players. But, you have the reigning 6th man of the year. Then the guy that finished second in the voting. So you got Montrezl Harrell and Schroeder, right? Then you have supposedly the heir apparent of the team, the young gun, the third option, the guy that's supposed to be able to take it over because old man LeBron going to get out the way eventually and AD stay hurt too much. So let's get Kuzma because he could be the guy that bridges. I don't know.
About that.
I don't know. Cool. I don't know, Kuzma. You said this perfectly, Jay, and I'm gonna take this from you. You said this. This is the opportunity for the third guy, the guy that usually get overlooked, for him to step it up and make a name for himself. Instead of Kuzma making a name for himself, guess who's making a name for themselves? Montrezl Harrell. That is why you're hearing trade rumors with Montrezl Harrell in it. I don't think it's necessarily initiated by the Lakers. I think it's other teams contacting the Lakers about Harrell and engaging their interest in trading him. Is how I'm looking at it. I don't think the Lakers want to get rid of Harrell. This dude, you can't tell me he ain't earning his money for the amount of money his contract is, and for the what he gives you. He's earning his money. Why in the hell would you want to send him away? I just don't get it. Why would you want to send him away? That guy is balling. He's like, if you want to ask me, like one of the bright spots without AD and LeBron in the lineup. So, you know, shouts out to him for showing up. But this is not enough. This is Caruso. What's up? Come on. Yo, this your chance. Shooter, you play 35 minutes, 15 points. Kuzma, 30. All right, you know what? I'm trying to not, I know this, we try to keep it as clean as possible. But just looking at these stats made me want to say a whole bunch of words that won't, allow us to click the little tab that say kids friendly. So, look, this team is terrible. But before I close the subject, because this is just disappointing me by talking about this, I do want to say this to TNT, to ESPN, when these leagues, when these companies, these broadcasting companies, go back to the table with the NBA, we got to start talking about some flex. And listen, I'm not saying, if we talk about flex, we have to use it, but at least have it somewhere in the contract to where, in case of emergency, break glass. Like, listen, we looking at these two games, they're not going to draw that big. Can we flex? Like last night, for example, so many more people would have rather watched the Brooklyn Nets versus the Portland Trail Blazers. That was so much more of a competitive game. I mean, you actually got something out of the game. Both of the games we referenced in today's show could essentially been over by the third quarter. If the 76ers didn't fall asleep, that game was over. They fell asleep. And the Lakers, the Pelicans didn't fall asleep, and the game was over in the third quarter. So, it's something to look at in the near future. I don't know how they would do it. Like you said, it would be a very hard thing to do, to juggle, because you have so many things going on in NBA. But this would have been a prime opportunity to flex this out, man, because those was two of the worst, like, primetime games you could have had. And TNT, you really bit the dust on that one last night. But, back to the question at hand, I don't know. I feel like the Pelicans showing us that they can play good ball when they want to. And what I think is going to happen is what happened to Portland last year. I think the Pelicans might come up and start finishing the season strong, where you have to give them consideration for the play-in game. They get hot, they win the play-in game, they make the playoffs, and then whoever the first, number one seed, where it looks like it's going to be Utah, Phoenix, the Clippers at this point, one of those three teams being number one seed, it don't really matter, because either one of the three teams they play going to get them out of here. They're going to get them out of here. Because, needless to say, the Pelicans looked really good on offense. I don't know if they figured out the defense part. They just played a bad Lakers team. I don't know if I seen that last night. But their offense was on point. So, yep, my confidence level as far as them making the playoffs has risen from last year, but I don't know if I'm going to quite put them in yet.
Yeah, they're even like winning 4 of 6 is nice. I mean, but it's I need more a larger sample size. I need more consistency and if you're just going off last night, I mean this told us nothing about either team really. I mean, I had some hope that with Montrezl Harrell, with Dennis Schroeder, with Kyle Kuzma, because the thing about six men, which really Harrell and Schroeder, that's what they've been for much of their career.
Right.
Six men, they're starters. They just normally play on teams that are so good that it's better for the team if they come off the bench. But in a situation like this, you would expect those guys to come in and lead you. And in the case of Schroeder and Kuzma last night, just wasn't it. And Montrezl Harrell, he occupied his normal role coming off the bench. They had some fella, Devontae Kaycock or something, learn a new name every day with some of these injuries that just be popping up all over the place.
Right.
But yeah, the Lakers just, I mean, I thought Montrezl Harrell kept him within striking distance when he entered the game. He was aggressive. He was living at the free throw line. But Kyle Kuzma scored 3 points. I think he hit a three to open the game, and then he went radio silent for the rest of the first half. So I mean, that was just. I mean, it's one thing when LeBron and AD are out there and they have everything clicking and you can just be in the flow of the game. You might play a little defense, take a shot here and there. But Kuzma, hello, this game, and no one's mad that you lost the game, but could you at least? They was down 30 at a couple of junctures in this game. This was not a 17-point loss. They were down by 30 a couple of times. So you weren't close. And the thing about it in a particular game like this, where you figure that the Lakers would struggle to score points, is it might be worth playing some defense, and they could. It was just a disaster. And like I say, we figure it's not surprising that they lost, but you would at least expect a little bit more competitiveness and fight. He just didn't get it. And the guys that, like I say, Schroeder and Kuzma in particular, they just weren't good. And especially in the case of Kuzma, because as you say, if there was ever a night to where, maybe it would be beneficial for you to come out and perform, it would be when you have an opportunity to step into the leading role. And you're also playing against a Pelicans team who half of those guys used to be your teammates. Not half, but like several of those guys. Randall's gone and Lonzo didn't play last night, but you still got Josh Hart, you still got Brandon Ingram, and the story was Brandon Ingram, because Brandon Ingram was just untouchable in the fact that they couldn't stop him. He did whatever he wanted, and Kuzma didn't even bother. He didn't even bother in the first half. He hit some threes, and I think he hit like 3 threes in the third quarter, but by then, game wasn't even competitive, so it didn't matter. So I mean, we know what the Lakers are. It's for the Lakers right now. It's all about health. They just got to get healthy, and assuming LeBron and Anthony Davis come back, they'll stick around in the top 4. Although we got to keep in mind Denver's still coming. I think Denver's still on the rise. So you got to be careful. You could wind up in the 5 hole at some point. But regardless, LeBron and AD, as long as they make the playoffs. Which I think it'd be hard to, judging by, the video from Anthony Davis last night, it looks like he's getting closer. So I think it'd be really hard to believe that they completely fall that far off the map. So as long as they get in, they'll have a shot. And with, just with the way things going in with not fans really not being all that involved, being a road team, I don't think it's going to matter all that much. But New Orleans, it was. I give New Orleans credit in this sense. In this game, they did what they were supposed to do. You had a team that somewhat depleted. Also, I don't think either one of us care much for him. But Marc Gasol also did not play. At least he's a body that you can put in there for a few minutes.
Wait. We got to get a full context. Why he didn't play again?
Oh, you said conditioning? I don't know, whatever.
I didn't say conditioning. The Lakers said conditioning.
The Lakers said conditioning?
That's what the prompter said.
I'd be interested if that's pure conditioning, or is that conditioning because he's coming off another injury and he's not in game shape? I'm just gonna, if it's just conditioning because it's conditioning and it's not related in any way to an injury, that's pretty embarrassing as a professional. But like I say, at least he's a body. And in this particular game, you need more big bodies against a Zion. That could be somewhat helpful because
Yo,
for much as Brandon Ingram was doing whatever, Zion could not be stopped last night. I mean, Markieff Morris is a grown man, and Zion just did whatever he wanted. So they I mean, without AD, without LeBron, without Marc Gasol, that's your entire front court and all of those. And when you're playing against Zion, who is just so dominant in the paint and doesn't even need, it's remarkable. We get on Ben Simmons for not shooting. Zion's not masquerading as a point guard, and he doesn't need to shoot. He's that dominant. And another thing that I really liked last night, the free throw shooting appears to be a lot better. So now, you can't just like foul haphazardly because you're just giving away points because he's making them a lot more consistently. I think he's shooting at about 70%, which is okay. It's okay. But he's so dominant, and he's also, they running a lot of offense through him, so he's really shined as a playmaker. He does a lot of things well. So those two guys, they showed up in force. Ingram was spectacular, scoring from everywhere. The mid-range game, you don't see a lot of mid-range in today's NBA, but it was just a clinic from Brandon Ingram. Supporting gas, Steven Adams, he was good, 6 for 6, doing his thing on the inside. Kyra Lewis, impressive again off the bench. Those young backcourt guys with him and Alexander Walker. Alexander Walker's, he continues to improve, getting a lot better. So, and Jackson Hayes, a lot of guys coming off the bench doing some really good things. But again, they got to be more consistent defensively. They look to be a little bit better on defense, but then again, it's hard to judge because you're playing against a team that's just lacking, with the actual guys who make their offense go. So, I don't think they'll make the playoffs. Of course, you do have the whole play-in thing where I guess they're doing the 8-9 type thing, but they're 19-24 right now, and we talked about it, not too long ago. At the halfway point, they're a handful of games under 500. I think they are who they are, but they certainly are capable. There is enough talent there to where they can make a run. I just don't believe they will. And on to the flex point, because I think it's a great point. I'm glad we mentioned it before we wrapped up the action from last night. I think that's something that you got to consider, and I do think it'd be more difficult. But keep in mind, guys are calling, the national broadcast crew in this scenario, they're calling games, at least TNT is, they're calling them virtual anyway. So it's somewhat conceivable, although it would probably still be challenging. You probably have to get ahead of it somewhat. But I think it's something definitely worth exploring to see if you could make it happen, because last night, especially this Laker Pelican game, I get it.
It was over by the third quarter.
I get it. I get Zion is must-watch TV, but can we get? It's less of a draw because there's no LeBron and there's no AD. So I would have taken the Knicks and Wizards. I know the Wizards ain't any good at all, but at least you can see Westbrook and Bradley Beal out there, throw up shots all night. And we saw the Knicks against the Nets. That's a good team. That's a pretty fun team to watch. With the improvements that Julius Randle's made to his game, Emmanuel quickly. We know Derrick Rose injured, but that's a real basketball team now. So I think it's a great point, and as innovative and ahead of the curve on a lot of things are. This is one where I think Adam Silver should be paying attention, because these games where they look marquee on paper, but then whether it's load management or, God forbid, conditioning, God forbid LeBron ever comes out and, hey, I'm out for conditioning. Nobody wants, okay, well, you just lost half the audience or a good portion of the audience. Let's at least get a competitive game where guys are actually playing. Another matchup from last night, if you didn't want to watch the Steph and Joel Embiid-less Warriors and Sixers, you could have had not only Brooklyn and Portland, but you have Miami and Phoenix, another pretty compelling ball game. So definitely the flex idea. I think it's definitely something Commissioner Silver should be thinking about.